Welcome to Introduction to Communication Research Methods. I'm Dr. Janie Good. I'm a professor of communication studies, and this module is meant to help you acclimate to the main components of the course. So let's get started. One of the most frequently asked questions is, why do I need to know this? Understanding how researchers gather data, how they analyze data, and how they interpret it is critical to almost every aspect of life. But it's particularly important for those going into careers where data analysis is a key component, and that means communication. Before you, I'm presenting a list of jobs that communication graduates can and should apply for. Many of you have already started the job search process, and some of you may be already in your careers. And thus you know that every one of these jobs is going to require at least a competency in research, and even for some of them, it's going to require that you gather, analyze, and interpret the data. So this semester, we're going to work on all three of those skills to make sure that you are competitive in your job search. There are many ways to come to know something. The first is through our own observation. So we trust what we see, what we hear, what we feel. We use our senses to observe the world around us. But most of our knowledge is actually social knowledge. So we learn from the stories and experiences of others. Our traditions provide endless amounts of cultural knowledge. And also, we listen to authority figures, so the dentist who tells us we need to brush twice a day. Unfortunately, both our own observations and the observations of others are prone to errors, and understanding these errors is critical to the research process. Let's test your awareness. Push pause now and go back to the module page and watch the video. This is one of my favorite videos from basic psychology. Did you see the dancing bear? Almost all students, when they've watched the first part of the clip, don't notice it. And this is just an example of how when we aren't attuned to something, we often don't see it. So our own powers of observation and our social knowledge based on the observations of others can be highly flawed. How do we come to make these errors? Well, the first problem we have are cognitive biases. We think we know what's important. We were told to pay attention to how many passes the white team made, so anything else that our brain might have noticed didn't really register because we didn't think we needed to pay attention to it. Also, we have cognitive biases based off of previous knowledge. So if we already have assumptions about what we're going to see, we likely see that whether it's there or not. Then we also have selective observation. So we only see what confirms what we already believe. And this is called a confirmation bias. So if you have an individual who believes that the teacher likes them, they're going to pay more attention to instances where that behavior is exhibited versus behavior that might indicate that the teacher doesn't like them. And then we also overgeneralize. So we tend to see a few examples of something and think it represents an entire population when it doesn't. Now, does this mean that humans are terrible? No. Humans are lovely, lovely creatures. And there are reasons why we have these types of sort of default belief systems and thought systems that we use. They've kept us around for millions of years and helped us be very successful creatures. Yet, we can improve upon these systems if we put these types of cognitive biases in check. And that's exactly what research is doing. Research is saying, here are the cognitive issues that we tend to have as humans, and here's how we account for those issues and make sure they don't influence what we're seeing in our data. Research tends to fall on a spectrum of objectivity and subjectivity. Subjectivity on one side is where we view the interpretation of data based off of our own previous experiences, our knowledge, sometimes our mental and emotional status, and each person is going to see something differently. They have a subjective position. On the other side of the spectrum is objectivity, where we believe that something is actually real and exists outside of what we see, and that although each individual has a different lens through which they can look at a beautiful sky, the fact that the beautiful sky is there and it's not cloudy on that day is an objective reality that can be measured. Most research falls somewhere between objectivity and subjectivity. Nothing is completely subjective and nothing is completely objective in the research world. The purpose of this course is to familiarize yourself with the data gathering analysis that almost everyone will need to know how to do or be familiar with in your profession. And it's also to increase your critical thinking skills and make you a more informed citizen. Both of those goals run hand in hand in every assignment in the course. The most frequently occurring problems are actually not with the content. Each and every person is able to understand everything that we're doing and develop these skills. However, not managing time or keeping a weekly schedule for when to do your homework, not following the directions, not studying, and not addressing your own weaknesses are reasons why students don't do as well as they would like to do. So keep a weekly schedule. Make sure you read all of the assignment all the way through. Study, set time aside to go over and refresh your brain on what we have studied for that week. And then take into account your own weaknesses. Maybe you tend to be a procrastinator, or maybe you tend to be a perfectionist. Keep those weaknesses in check as you work through the semester and all of the work. Here are some helpful hints to make this course more manageable. Read, and then read again. Sometimes when we read something the first time through, not everything makes sense, and that's okay. It's okay to need to read the material again. And then make notes while you're reading. Write in the book if you want, and then study those notes. Ask questions. Email me when you have questions. Ask the class questions. Do the homework and work ahead of time. If you do the work ahead of time, then you have that extra couple of days to send me an email and ask me, is this answer correct? Or I don't understand this question. And then at the end, study again.